Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, episode 126. Happy holidays as we inch closer to Christmas. Thank you for being with us today. Our new listeners, we see you, and welcome to the podcast where we talk about hitting, baseball, intangibles, and all that fun stuff. And to our old listeners, thank you very much for once again tuning in Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts and listening on the YouTube page, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. We get new subscribers at a snail's pace, but we do get them on the YouTube side. So thank you very much for the great listenership on the audio end of things. We do see you, and of course on YouTube watching the show. Okay, let's get into today's topic: hitting curveballs, hitting sliders. Should be pretty interesting, I think. Let me bring in professional evaluator. I could be wrong. Successful business owner, former coach, friend, and I always struggled hitting sliders, by the way. Friend and co-host, as this gentleman knows, Jake Epstein. Hello there, fellow. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing just great. It's not 20 degrees today, so
No.
it's it's a balmy 35 out. So feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Get outside today. Went for a walk yesterday because it was sunny,
Yeah.
but
Did
it
you
was
take the
kind
new
of
dog for a
breezy.
walk? Did you take
Huh?
the new dog? Did you take the new
Yeah,
dog for a walk? You
yeah.
did.
Not that one. The new one doesn't have long enough legs. So, I mean, it was cold. It was cold. It was like an
Yeah.
hour, and I was frozen by the time. Like as soon as I turned into the wind, holy cow, my face about froze off. And then I thought of you in Florida, where it's sunny and warm, and
Mm.
trees are green,
And
grass is
you were
green.
cursing me.
Yeah,
That's not
but
very
today
nice.
it's nice. Today, no
Okay.
wind. It'll be 40 something. Might put my swimsuit on and walk around the neighborhood.
Really? Right.
No,
I was the other night. I saw the episode King of Queen, King of Queens episode where their next door neighbor. It was Bryan Cranston actually was a guest
hmm
star in that,
hmm
where he got that upground pool and
yeah,
he was rubbing it in their faces. That's what that just reminded me of.
that's a good show.
Um, Next week we won't be here, so you'll hear cross functionality on both Monday on the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, the RSS feed, and you'll hear it on Wednesday on the Softball Strength Academy. You'll watch it on the Softball Strength Academy YouTube page, hopefully, and hear it on the Cross Functionality RSS feed. But I want to bring up something because this week on Cross Functionality, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Cross Functionality with Cassie Riley, Bosha, and I, Apple, Google, Spotify, or of course, wherever you get your podcasts, or the Softball Strength Academy YouTube page. We talked about player intangibles, and that's a topic that we're going to talk about in the new year in 2023 as it relates to hitting. But player intangibles, what are some intangibles that you look for as a coach in trying to develop in a player?
Yeah, and intangibles are interesting because why are certain players just physically better? Maybe
Mhm.
not stronger or bigger, but why are they able to move the bat faster? Because you have guys like say Altuve, for instance, who's not a big guy. He's put together really well, but I mean, if you were to compare him with other athletes around the world that are his size, why is he able to do what he does?
Right.
And that plays a big part in what we do, at least when we're scouting, when we're looking at players. I'm a piece that's the hitting piece. I'm not the fielding piece. I'm not the throwing piece. I don't know how explosive they are. I get there 60 times, but it's they're not breaking it down. They're not giving me vertical stuff and things like that. So I'm basing it on hitting only, and of that hitting, most of that is mechanical. Let's make sure that there's nothing catastrophic that would hold this player back, whether it's a 14-year-old international player or whether it's a 17-year-old or college amateur, amateur draft player. So we see all these different things and how they move, and we want to make sure that it's usable at the big league level. So other intangibles, that I'll look at. So I'll look at a lot of video. How do they react? How do they react in game? What's their personality like? Are they hard on themselves? Uh, are they stress free when they go to the plate? Do you see the tenseness go from the on deck circle to home plate? Things like that are very Very, very important. And those are the intangibles that I really see that put players over the edge, or the mental, the visual intangibles, the relaxation. Can they slow their heart rate down to be able to use maybe their good swing or their good plan that they took to the plate? We've talked about players that I've had in the past that were amazing athletes and amazing, batting practice hitters. But when we get in the game, they can't take their plan to the plate. We even have a
Yeah.
plan, but they don't trust the plan. They don't trust the way they've been pitched the previous weekend, or maybe on the Friday night game versus the Sunday game. Look, they've created a plan for you. They're going to stick to that plan if they're winning, and players not be able to make adjustments. So a lot of times for me, intangibles happen from the neck up.
Yeah. So I had a coach in high school. We talked about this on cross functionality this week as well. He was an assistant coach, one of those coaches who kind of coached for like their kids, but he put more stock into himself as a coach than what he really was. And he used to always say, and this drives me crazy to this day, but in a good way because I always laugh. He always used to say, and sorry everybody if I'm a little stuffed up today. I'm still a little sick, getting over a cold. I've had coughing fits over the past 3 days. I was in the store yesterday in Publix, grabbing some food, a couple of items, and I was out checking out, paying, and I had a coughing fit right in front of the lady checking me out, and I had to tell her it was allergies, but she probably was like, I just wish this fucking guy would come out and say he's sick, you know.
Yeah, put a mask on, you son of a.
Luckily, though, in
That's a good
Florida,
thing.
nobody gives you dirty looks if you're not wearing a mask or if you're coughing or if you're sick. Anyway, I had this coach in high school, and he used to always say this: "Play with heart, right? Play with heart." And I thought it was stupid back then. As I've gotten older, I think it's even more stupid now. But now I actually add context to his stupidity of, "Hey, play with heart." This isn't a Rudy movie. We're not going to hear Rudy music in the background. This isn't a Disney music. So anytime, I'm going to give everybody a lesson today. All right. It's time for Jimmy lessons, okay? Because Ep's always the one explaining things. Don't roll the eyes. Don't roll your eyes, son. You know I'm right, okay? Playing with it, play with heart, all right? If any coach ever, anybody, I don't care what part of the world you're listening to this show, any coach who ever says to you, play with heart, do me a favor. Look at that coach, turn away, walk away, never listen to anything that they ever say again because it's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever. I think there's a lot of things that are stupid. So maybe it's not the stupidest thing, but it's a really stupid idea when a coach says play with heart. But one of the intangibles for a player is effort. But you have to be in the right mindset, Ep, in my opinion, to give that proper effort and to be able to finish as an athlete, whatever job that may be, at the plate, in the field, whatever.
Yeah, and then there is effort, and a lot of times what we see now is we see false effort because everything's at a showcase or a
Yeah.
perfect game event, and guys are diving for balls they shouldn't dive for, and they're a little bit too rah-rah, and so you have to filter with what you're seeing. And as a player, you know, scouts know, recruiters know that what false hustle is, but yeah, effort. You can't go wrong. I had a player go to a camp actually out in Florida at a school, and he's like, "Yep, what should I, what's really important?" I was like, "Well, number one, you know, hustle out to your position, hustle in
Yeah.
from your position. You're not going to get a hit every time up. When you're taking batting practice, show them that you can go the other way. Show them that you can hit a ball out of the park. Show off your skill set. He's fast." I said, "But whatever you do, don't get frustrated. Don't throw your helmet. Don't smash your bat. If something is bad, if you have a bad moment, just go back into the dugout, put your batting gloves in your helmet, and hustle out to your position." That sometimes will lead to more respect from a coach than getting a base hit that at bat. If they can see how you deal with adversity, that's very, very important. So, yes, you want to have heart or you want to put through effort,
Yeah.
but you have to be able to enjoy the moment. You have to enjoy base. If you have to, like what you said, play with heart. If you don't play with heart, then you shouldn't be playing, right? You should be doing something else. You should be studying or playing a different sport or taking, music lessons. Everybody that's on the baseball field or softball field should be playing with heart. They should
But I
enjoy
just
themselves
I
out there.
agree. I agree
Yeah.
100% with you, but I just don't know, like, how do you do that? Because you're standing around for so much of the game. How do you? How do you play with heart? If you play with too much passion, you out-psych yourself,
Yeah,
right? I mean, if a pitcher is out there, I don't care how intense you see Max Scherzer, he is always in control.
always. Yeah, he's
Always in
always intense.
control. Because if you're
Yeah,
not in control and you're just playing with heart, playing wildly, you're not gonna hit your spot. You're not gonna
yeah.
have command as a pitcher, and as a hitter, you're gonna deviate away from your plan. So, I don't know, I I guess I'm trying to figure out how do you define playing with heart, and I don't feel like figuring it out because I have a bad cough, so I say, "Fuck it." And I say, "Just rely on the proper effort." I also wanna bring up another thing about effort too. You know, players like to work on, you know this, they love to work on hitting, right? People love to talk about hitting. People like to argue about hitting. People like to pay $500 to watch two guys argue about hitting. That's how much people love hitting. Okay. Why would you do that when you have this podcast for free? Okay.
Would you-
Um, Notwithstanding though, I got to tell you, with players, I've noticed they don't like to work on the smaller intangible type things, right? Like, for example, keeping their back rounded when they're fielding ground balls, working on their hands, working on their footwork, working on their base running awareness. It's always hitting, hitting, hitting. So,
Mhm.
my point is, oftentimes, Ep, I believe that effort is can be misplaced in what a player is doing in their I hate to use this word, what they're doing in their process to get better.
It's all about the process. It's all about preparing.
Okay,
It's all
listen.
about practicing the right way. And then when you get out on the field, show yourself. Show what you can do.
Yeah,
But you can't change. You get out on the field if and be a different person than you are every day, or a different person that you've practiced. Hey, I'm practicing my footwork on my ground balls, and then you go into a game and you're thinking about your footwork. Oh my goodness, that's not the time to think about it. So again, going back to maybe episode one, and me being a huge John Wooden fan, prepare, over prepare, and then you have to let the player's ability and preparation shine through. If they
yeah,
don't, if it doesn't work, you don't change it mid game. You work on something else at practice that will help that player. So,
yeah.
yeah, play with heart, kids.
If anybody out there, I just want to let people know. If anybody out there pays $500 to watch two
People
jerk
argue.
offs hit about or argue about hitting, first of all, you can do that for free with two jerk offs here every week. You know,
Yeah,
you and me.
it's
No, I'm
I could
kidding.
teach
But
anything if you want. I could teach every
if
kind of hitting
anybody
out there, but it
if
doesn't
anybody
mean that it's
pay
right.
but if anybody pays that $500, you need
Yeah,
your head examined.
yeah,
It's the holiday season. You got to invest your money in
right.
something else. I mean,
Yeah,
come on, really. Take the $500 and go to like a football game. Go to a
yeah.
bowl game. There you go. Go to a college football bowl game and go actually watch athletes do what they're doing, and you'll learn a lot more than watching two guys. Anyway, I'm not gonna get. I don't. I've had a cough for a week, so I'm in a little bit of a crabby mood today. I apologize.
I wish I could give you these, Jim.
What's that? What do you got for me? I have them. I have them.
Those are the only ones
Um,
that work for me.
I have the strawberry ones, but there's only so many you can take before like your mouth kind of
Yes,
gets
correct.
swollen and numb because it's numbing your throat. All right, follow us on social. By the way, cross functionality episode 22. Please subscribe, watch the show, listen to the show. Appreciate that. Episode 126 here, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. Follow us at Jim Terra at Epstein Hitting. If you have any questions, please email us Jimbo Podcast 21 at gmail.com. We do have a listener question. We forgot last week. This is from Mike. He's written in before. And this listener question, Mike writes, Jim and Jake, looking forward to the Bellinger fix. That was again, I forgot to add the question last
That's
week.
right.
We did the fixing Cody Bellinger last week. Go back in the archives, listen to that. But he wants to talk about Mike does two-strike hitting. And he asks, what are your thoughts on using a no-stride approach? I believe that Jake once said he's not in favor of doing so. Tom Verducci did an analysis on Trey Turner, who effectively uses it on the MLB network or um, I'm trying to think if I actually saw that analysis. I don't know.
I think I
Um,
saw the Trey
yeah.
Turner one.
Verducci did an analysis on Trey Turner, who effectively uses it. after Turner signed with the Phillies. Made sense. Thanks and happy holidays. And that is from Mike. Mike, thank you very much. Sent to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Trey Turner doesn't use it, though, all that often, right? He uses it with 2 strikes, which a couple of Phillies hitters have done in the past, right? Anyway, I'll let you answer. I
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Harper, I think, sometimes does it with 2 strikes,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Yeah, I don't think it's out of the ordinary. So, very timely question. I did it with a player yesterday that I've been working with, a high school player that has timing issues. He just always is a little bit late. I actually think he has some vision focusing. I think his depth perception is off a little bit, like most
Mhm.
people's, where he sees the ball at a certain spot in space, but the ball is actually like 2 inches closer to him. I was just the opposite. I had mine tested, and you can do these tests at eye doctors. It's not a very difficult thing, but mine was always about an inch early, an inch where my eyes are kind of, my left and right eye are coming into an object. I would focus an inch early. And so that's really good for people that throw, 95, 98. If you're on defense, you're seeing the ball a little bit quicker. However, it's not good with off speed pitches, which is our topic for today that we'll get into. So,
Great
but yeah,
segue.
absolutely. The no stride is, yeah, I have no problem with the no stride. I did the no stride. So, my freshman year of college, I had kind of a piss poor year. I did get hurt and it kind of lost it, never got out. But it was that summer my dad was coaching somewhere in the minor leagues. I don't remember where it was. And so I went and instead of going to summer ball, I went and hung out with him for like, I don't know, 6 weeks or something. And all we did was the no stride. Every day we did the no stride. Every day we did the no stride. And I definitely had less power doing it. But when I went back to school, I kept doing it and I hit 4 something in the fall. And I remember I hit my first collegiate home run with the no stride, without lifting my whole foot off the ground, just my front heel. So it works. I got stale with it, a couple weeks after that, went back to a stride, loved the stride. So I would go back and forth. And I think
Mhm.
players need to have the ability to do that. So the reason, Mike had mentioned that I don't like the no stride. I do like the no stride for certain players in certain positions. I will not teach a new player a no stride technique, however. I will not take a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, a 12-year-old and teach them the no stride exclusively because that player isn't a fully mature, strong person. They need to learn rhythm at some point in their life. They need to learn when to move, how to move. So once a player, for instance, this kid that I was working with, I've known for like 4 years, and we were doing kind of a no legs drill and he was hitting the ball pretty hard. I'm like, hey, why don't we take your stride out of it and just lift your heel for right now? We were hitting off the machine and we were working on other things. And I said, just drop your front heel and let it rip. Take the same swing you've been taking, but just drop your. And the first swing he did it on, and I was totally blown away at how good it was. I wasn't. He's a right-handed thrower, so I didn't think his front leg would be great. I didn't think he'd be able to push back and really rotate fast. He did. He was actually hitting the ball consistently harder
Mhm.
because he was finding more barrels than he was when he had his step, which he struggles with. So he's like, "Do you really want me to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, let's bust out the next month and do this. We can always go back to a stride. You've been doing it for whatever your whole life. So let's see if this." And the kid loved it. He's like, "It feels so good. I feel compact." So yes, I am a believer in the no stride. If you're strong enough, if you're a matured player, this player's, fairly strong. And you look at big leaguers, they're pretty strong. They can probably move that bat pretty good. So if a big leaguer loses a mile an hour, 1 to 2 miles an hour on their bat speed, they're still going to hit a ball out of the park.
Yeah.
If a little kid loses, they're going to lose more like 4 or 5 miles an hour bat speed, then it's a problem.
So you're
Okay.
saying, so you're really saying though, when it comes to the two, it's not really an approach necessarily. It's more so just a quick adjustment that if a player is comfortable with at higher levels, they can do, but it's not exactly a real approach
Could be an
because
approach. Could be a two strike
okay, it could
approach.
be. But what
Yeah.
about when the kids are younger and you're trying to develop rhythm? Because what I've noticed with big leaguers or any high level type hitter
Hmm.
that does the no stride approach, they still have that type of rhythm. So you need that rhythm built in.
Yeah.
And at 11, as you mentioned, 11, 12, even 13-year-olds, they're still kind of learning their
Yeah.
bodies and
So
learning
I'll,
rhythm.
I'll tell you this. I'm going through my new list for the draft, 2023 draft,
Mhm.
and the international players. There hasn't been one no stride person yet. So just to give you an idea, the best, 14 to 15, or there might have been some 13 and a half year olds, international players, none of them did a no stride.
Yeah.
Okay. There may be people that do it, but they're not on the list to get signed. And the first, I don't know, I just got the first piece of the list, but the first 50, amateur high school and college play, I haven't seen one yet. So it's not something they're going to showcase. It's something that I'm defensive. I have 2 strikes. I'm struggling. I'm trying to take risk out of the equation. I'm going to do a no stride. So Bichette, like, that's your guy. I mean, that's like the extreme one end to the other. When he's got less than 2 strikes, his leg kick like goes up to his chin. And then when he has 2 strikes, boom, he just kind of lifts his heel and drops it and goes. So
But he almost still has the same rhythm as he would with the big stride.
he does still have the rhythm.
Yeah.
So that's the thing with the no stride. And I have, like, if you those of you that are part of the Epstein Online Academy, if you go through your library, there's one on the no stride technique, how to do it where we still have rhythm. How do we still pool holes this thing? He did it for 10 years, 12 years of his career, the beginning of his career. Notice when he got older, and he lost some strength, he had to start getting a little bit more juice, and so he went to a leg kick. But he did it he won MVPs, right? He was the best hitter in baseball for a long time, just by kind of rocking it into his back leg, lifting his front heel, having a little weight shift and going. So check that out for you Online Academy members. If you're not an Online Academy member, I don't know what you're doing. It is the greatest thing ever. Like, you're going to get better in like 3 months. Like, if you have issues, we will work them out remotely. Okay. One of them might be the no stride technique. Okay. But it's probably not. Most of it's going to be rhythm and technique.
Matty Arnold. How's he doing, Matt
The
Arnold?
best. He is the
How's he doing?
best.
Tell him I said hello, will you?
He is so smart. And, like, some people are good managers of people. Some people have different managing styles. That gentleman does it all. He is just he makes you feel good. He's funny. He's outgoing. And he just made an incredible trade. Maybe he should run for president after that trade. I don't even know.
Mind you, speaking of president, he is the vice president of, for those who don't know, of baseball operations for Epps organization, the Milwaukee Brewers, for those who don't know. So
he is the head dude.
He's the old head honcho. Thanks, Mike, for the question, by the way. JimboPodcast21@gmail.com. If anybody has any questions, we will answer them right here on the show. Hey, how was Westchester, by the way?
Westchester was fantastic. Bestchester. It was so great. That organization, the Dragons, the kids are great. The coaches are into it. Their leaders are into it. They're tech savvy without going, crazy with it. They just, I don't know. It was a great weekend. It was an action-packed weekend. I landed on Friday. We did like 3.5 hours of a coaching clinic. I think we had 12 or 14 coaches within the organization. We also had another gentleman who was great, who's a college coach in the area, college hitting coach, and whose family is part of Major League Baseball. I mean, he's just a sharp guy, and I actually learned things from the coaches, which is really fun for me. Different ideas, different experiences that coaches have working with players. So it was fun. Todd, appreciate that. But it was the kids were great. We went through all the drills. We went through all the fixes. We did some video. It really went well. We did. It was about 3 hours, and it was about 7-8 hours working with the coaches one-on-one. But then we had about 6 hours in the middle, those same coaches working with players. So it's very.
There's a lesson in there, by the way.
What's that?
There's a lesson in there. You're an expert, not a guru. No. We don't use that word on this show either. No, that's another banned word. Process, play with heart, guru. 3 things that are banned on this show. But you are an expert with hitting. Your father was an expert who learned from Ted Williams. For those who don't know, new listeners just joining us.
It's funny you say expert, Jim. I'm going to.
Okay, because I had something there.
I did the math. I totally interrupted you there, but it was kind of the joke of the week when I started the presentation on Friday night, was that I did the math that I've been coaching now for 20 years. 20 years, and I probably look at videos, that's 20 years times 50 weeks. what is that, like,
I don't have my
1,000?
calculator in front
What
of
is
me.
that,
I'm sorry.
1,000 weeks? And
Yeah.
of those weeks, I do at least 10 hours of video, right? So I've put in probably 15,000 hours looking at swings and videos, which makes me an expert, right? Automatically. If you get
What's the
10,000
10,000? Right. Thank you.
10,000 reps,
That's
right?
right.
So it
Mhm.
was it was really funny that you say expert. All right,
Um,
continue. I didn't
no, I
mean
was gonna say, what did you learn? Because coaches, they don't like to learn off each other. They say they do, and they give
Yeah.
that hogwash, but they don't really like to learn off of other
Yeah,
coaches.
no,
What did you
he was
learn
just
off of
telling
these
me
guys?
he has, his kids play and his I think it was his brother's a hitting coach, and I don't remember which organization. And so he was just telling me, different drills and different things that they work on. He knows the people that work for Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, which is the best collegiate softball program going right now. They hit bombs. They have really great athletes, but they hit bombs. But I'm not going to share exactly what we talked about. But they don't necessarily teach you to hit the ball in the air. We'll put it
Yeah.
that way. So even though they're the best hitting team, they're more in line with they do certain drills, and they look for certain results that are more in line with what we teach and what I teach, which makes sense looking at them versus what a lot of college programs have gone to, which is, oh, we want to hit the ball over the fence. We have to, get on plane really early. We have to get under the ball. We have to turn the barrel behind us. And so it's cool to hear different experiences and the processes of how players practice, what they're
Yeah.
working on during the off season in order to perform during the season.
Well, I'm glad you had fun in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Um, I have an affinity for Westchester because my cousin went to Westchester University, and he's a very successful man in the marketing industry.
Oh, nice.
He is the pride of Westchester University, a great institution as well. Anyway, a great baseball program too, and great Division II program. Probably
Yeah.
compete a lot of Division Ones across the country. All right, great. Let's get into today's topic, episode 126, talking about hitting curveballs, hitting sliders. There's a lot more data out there nowadays, though, that could assist a hitter in hitting curveballs and hitting sliders. Um, how do you decipher some of that data, the spin rate, the shape, looking at some heat maps? How do you decipher all of that and put it together in a plan where you can actually have a chance against hitting a good curveball, hitting against a really good slider?
Well, you can get lost in all the information. That's
Yeah.
number one. Man, you have to filter that out, from the whatever the data department. Got to be really careful for that. You have to see it. That's probably the best way to do it. So what's so great about machines now is that you can see something with similar shape. It's not going to maybe be exact shape. It's going to be pretty darn close. So to be able to see that pitch over and over again, to have slider day, I'm going to show up at the ballpark early today, and I'm going to track 50. I'm not going to swing at 50. I'm going to track 50, and then I'm going to hit 50, and then I'm going to go have a sandwich, and then I'm going to come back and hit some fastballs, hit 20 fastballs and call it a day. So it's preparation. Breaking balls, we've probably touched on this, but when you look at the draft board, why do most of the players that are really successful or I shouldn't say successful, but that are at the top of the draft list, the first 5 rounds or so, why are the majority of them from warmer weather climates? Why are they from Southern California? Always kills to this day. Southern California still dominates that board, which is crazy. When you see Texas and Florida and Georgia, the amount of baseball that they play down there. But it's warm weather places. Are they better
Yeah.
athletes? No, you get guys from Pennsylvania, and you get guys from the Northeast. You get Brandon Nimmo from Wyoming. I
Wyoming.
mean, you get players that are they're not better athletes. Okay. They just see more pitches. They see more pitches come out of the hand. If you look at the months of November through February or November through March, that's what, November, December. So say that's like, we'll say 4 months. Okay.
By the way, for
Four,
context purposes, talking about months, high school baseball in Florida, I know this for a fact, they begin in late February. They
yeah.
start real competition in February.
Yeah. And so if we go back to their younger years too, right? When they're playing travel ball and getting all those at bats. So from say age 9, we'll say age 10 to 16, that's 6 years of 4 months of extra baseball. That's 24 months of extra baseball. That's 2 full years
Right.
of seeing breaking balls come out of a hand, of seeing shape, and all that is database information. Every time we see a pitch, our brain will categorize that. Oh, it came out of the hand this way, it moved this way. Well, now all of a sudden you have outliers, and we're working on different spin rates, and so what pitchers are trying to do, they're not trying to necessarily um, increase this, that, and the other, or pressure. They're trying to be different than everyone else. As long as
Yeah.
they're different than the norm, then it's going to be harder for that hitter to make that adjustment, because we're seeing a ball in space and we're anticipating, our brain is saying, where is that going to end up? Okay, because it's breaking, right? It's a curveball or a slider. Well, they're gonna end up in different spots. So if we have an idea based on speed and shape, then we'll be able to react to it. So it sounds like an impossible feat when you think about it, right? A ball's
Right.
coming to us. We have 0.24 seconds to react to that pitch, and in a quarter of a second, we have to know uh, when it's going to get to us, when it's going to get to our contact zone, and then where, how far away from our eyes is it going to be? So, the way to do that, you can't think your way through that process. You have to practice that process. You have to see breaking balls, stand in when pitchers are throwing bullpens, get that database going. You don't have to swing at the pitch to be able to categorize it. You need to see that shape. So it starts with that. Hitting a breaking ball starts with, okay, what does it look like? There's nothing better than when we start introducing breaking balls to kids at the lab at like age 10. Doesn't mean they're going to have to hit a good breaking ball, but we want them to see that shape. And the first time a kid will come in and hit off a breaking ball machine, right, and that ball shoots right at their head,
Mm.
they bail out and like jump out
Oh,
of the
yeah.
way. Well, that's just a natural response. If they saw a pitch in their game start at their head, they got to get out of the way. Well, wait a second, that ball's moving now. And then the second one, they'll bail out a little bit, third one, and then by the sixth or seventh swing, at least they're kind of understanding the shape. And that's where it starts.
I'll say this. I don't know lefties from that perspective because I am left-handed.
Yeah.
We struggle most with sliders. I think
Hmm.
left-handed batters struggle a lot. Don't care what level you're playing. They struggle a lot with sliders. But righties there, you mentioned it, they struggle more with curveballs.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's vice versa, but not really. Why is that? Why do lefties struggle more with sliders? Why do righties struggle more with curveballs?
It's the same. I mean, even a right-handed hitter off, Randy Johnson or whatever, a
Yeah,
left-hand, that back foot breaking ball is tough,
right.
because it's kind of, boring into them and getting closer to them, and it's slower. So we're thinking to ourselves, we got to let it get deeper. So if we're slower, yet it's coming towards our back foot, so we can't let it get too deep, or we're gonna, foul it off of our foot, so to speak. So, um, it's just a hard pitch. It's that if you can hit that pitch down and in as a lefty, right? So why do lefties? People always say, why do they have such pretty swings? Is it because they're finishing towards first? They're running towards first so they can finish their swing all the way before they start running. Why do lefties typically have more uppercut swings? Okay, it's usually because of they're protecting that breaking ball down and in. Okay,
Mhm.
so a breaking ball down and in, you got to swing up a little bit more, and then you back that up with a high riding fastball at the belt. Holy cow, that makes hitting really tough.
Yeah,
Where a righty against a righty, yeah, they have to protect about against that fastball up. But if it's a breaking ball away, at least it's moving away from them, right? You can still, you know, lose your posture. You can still get fooled and throw your bat head and get a piece of that slider breaking away. Okay,
yeah,
you can't do that on a if you're an opposite hand hitter. You can't do that on a slider breaking in, because it's going to come in and so it makes it a little bit more. Um, Typically, speed on a it's the change of speed that is making us early versus late, on a fastball. So speed dictates a big part of where our timing is, for sure. How do we hit breaking balls? Typically, it's having a plan. It's
right.
it's having an approach, and knowing what that pitch is. If you're looking for a high fastball and somebody throws a slider breaking into your back foot, you're going to miss it, and that's okay. That's why we get two strikes, but you're going to miss it. There's no way to cover both of those pitches. So you have to be able to lay off that. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to keep my hands up. I'm sitting on that high fastball because 2 out of 3 pitches that this guy throws me are going to be that belt high fastball. If he throws it at my letters, man, I'm probably going to swing at it, but hopefully he makes a mistake and gets it at the belt and I can stay on top of it. But if he breaks off that slider, hopefully you can just abort that swing. You have less than 2 strikes. Okay. You don't want any part of that other pitch. Okay. It's just the way it is. If you're sitting breaking ball, it's the same thing. Now I'm sitting on that breaking ball because you made me look like a horse's butt, my last time up on 2 or 3 sliders coming at me. Now I'm going to sit on that slider and try to abort anything else. We've talked about Manny Ramirez and how great he was at anticipating pitches. I
Yeah.
just looked at a video of a major league player. I can't really say the name because I did a analysis for an organization on it, but a left-handed hitter, and I'll just tell you the situation. It was a left on left. It was a slider. This guy hit for a home run. It wasn't a bad slider. It was knee high. The count was 0-0. So he swung at an 0-0 questionable slider, meaning it wasn't a hanger, and he hit it out of the park. He was right on it. Like he wasn't fooled or anything. There was no delay. There was no sink. There was no, well, he kept his hands back. It was, he sat on, and it wasn't hard. It was, 83 miles an hour, 84-mile-an-hour slider, and he hit it out of the park. And so when you go back, you're like, this guy just hit an 0-0 slider at the knees out of the park. And then I looked up and it was the 3rd inning. So this was his 2nd time through the order.
Second time through the order.
And so he had a plan. He had
Yeah.
a plan. I guarantee you that he saw some breaking balls and he liked the way they looked coming out of the hand. He picked them up and he decided to sit on that his next time up. And even though it wasn't a perfect pitch, because he was on it and he saw it, he was able to get through it and hit a line drive home run to center field. It was pretty impressive. So having a plan and having an approach probably is the number one, at that level. Okay. Once you're 16 and older, it's having an approach. Before that, it's how many breaking balls can I see? It doesn't mean I have to swing at all of them, but how many can I see coming out of a hand or a
So,
machine?
final question of the episode. I do want to know, how do coaches go about training their players in hitting curveballs, hitting sliders, hitting spin?
So seeing them. So we'll set up 2 breaking ball machines, one a curveball, one a slider, based on what we think we're going to see that week. So if we're preparing for a bullpen, for instance, the year I was at Mizzou, Vanderbilt's 2 top guys out of it during conference, they had 3 guys that came out of the bullpen, 2 lefties that were awesome, and then a right-handed closer. So we knew that once Rocker came out of the game, we were going to see a lefty reliever for an inning or 2, and then we were going to see the closer. So we knew that, and those lefties threw pretty much every game of the series, unless you didn't get a hit, unless that starter was just dominating. So you went, okay, the first guy out of the pen is going to be lefties. We're going to see a lot of lefty. And so we would match. One guy was a lefty slider guy. One guy was a lefty curveball. We would set up as close to that same shape. And that would be a station all week during batting practice. At practice, we would see that breaking, but we'd always have a fastball machine too, but we'd have 2 breaking ball machines. So those guys could see it. They could see that shape and they could bounce back and forth from the fastball to the slider or the fastball to the curveball. If we did all 3 of those at the same, that's hard. If you went curveball, slide, if a guy has a curve, like Verlander has a curveball and a slider, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he's won a Cy Young. I mean, it's really difficult to if a guy can throw 3 pitches for strikes, you have to have a very, very good plan and not miss your pitch. And you have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to look fast sometimes with 2 strikes. And then if you get a breaking ball, be able to keep your hands back for a split second. It's not going to be a perfect swing, but at least you're going to foul it off or maybe get a piece of it.
All right. Well, great stuff this week. If anybody has any questions, again, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Email us, reach out on social media at Jim Tara at Epstein Hitting. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and watch the show on YouTube, the Lab Epstein Hitting podcast page. Great work this week, my friend. What was the next thing I was going to talk about? Oh, lovely hat I'm wearing, the hat you're wearing. Where do we get this lab gear from? People are curious.
You got to come visit us at the lab.
Of course.
South Texas, College Station, Texas. The Lab BCS. I know a lot of you are listening, so don't get cheesy because you guys have access to the hats. We do ship those all over the country.
We do.
So
You do.
that that's where you got that really good looking hat. We even shipped all the way to Tampa, Florida.
That's
Look
right.
out, world.
Tampa Bay. Hey, how
Tampa
the
Bay.
Avalanche doing this year?
I don't know. I wait for the playoffs.
Lightning have won 5 of the last 6. All right. Also subscribe, EpsteinHitting.com, Epstein Online Hitting Academy. All right, well, we got to go. We're done. We will talk to you, I don't know, next week or whatever. I don't know. Thanks for listening though,
Happy
and we
hitting.
will talk to you. Happy hitting. We will talk to you soon. Take care.